There we go. Why you need to ditch fiat and how to do it. That's kind of the basic thing. And I should say, at noon, I'll be giving a talk in that tent, which is basically just sort of like an individualized workshop on getting those things tuned up. Any questions? Basically, porting the Q&A to there at noon. So, first of all, let's get a little bit of super basic history of money kind of thing. I know Dr. K is going to correct me on this, well, actually, on some things. But basically, we start with precious metals, right? You have a durable, scarce store of value and medium of exchange. In order to make them easy to exchange with people, people turn them into coins. You have like mints that says this is this amount, so you don't have to measure the gold yourself, test it, see if you're being cheated or not, which is the old school way, the boomer version of running your own node, as they say. So you don't have to do any of that, but basically you have the money with you. You can give anyone a piece of gold. Exchanges, it works. You don't have to really trust too many people in there. You can't really have anyone rug pull you, steal your money, whatever, unless they come over and physically beat you over the head, which has happened. So now the next evolution in this, because money and trade, etc., evolved, it's not linear, by the way, as you're going to see. It's the next evolution of this would be paper bills or gold certificates or silver certificates. A piece of paper that says this represents a certain amount of gold or silver or real money in a bank somewhere or etc. So the benefit of this, and of course it wouldn't exist without a benefit, is you can just have a giant stack of these bills in all different denominations just in your wallet, able to just pull out, pay, whatever. It's very easy to transport. It's very easy to count, denominate, etc. Whereas if you have actual gold coins, you might have a big, heavy one weighing down your pants. You might have a not very heavy one. One time I gave a talk at a university in Spain a few years ago, and I got paid for that in gold. But I got a little gram of gold that's just like this teeny little thing. It's about 10 times what it would take me to pay for a coffee. So if I wanted to pay for a coffee, what am I going to go? Go there, take my key, and just sort of break off a little piece. It just doesn't become very practical. That's where paper bills come in. So paper bills, a massive improvement as far as being able to trade with this kind of thing, but at the same time, introducing a problem. The problem which now you have to trust someone. Now you have to trust that the bank has the gold in it. Now you have to trust that you can then redeem it, which most people could trust it. It worked out for a while, but eventually you have a confiscation risk. And that's where things start to get a little bit more. So then, the next step, credit cards, including virtual cards, etc. Now you don't have to take a big stack of things. You don't have to deal with change. You just have one thing, and it just pays from your entire balance wherever it might be. And you can do it over the phone if you... Who here has ever paid for something with a credit card over the phone, like read out a number? A few of you. I have to say I have too, way back in the day. Much better than trying to stuff a $100 bill into your phone or put into your USB port or whatever to send. That doesn't work. So now we can actually pay for anything, anywhere in the world in amounts pretty much relatively instantly. It's a massive improvement for efficiency, but now you have a massive amount of extra trust. First of all, by this point, the gold backing the currency got removed, so now it's a central bank issued currency. They can inflate more on a whim. They can do whatever they want. And so the base money is not nearly as valuable anymore. But also, you can have a declined payment. Whereas if I give you a piece of paper money, it's hard to decline that. It's hard to be like, that didn't go through. It's like, well, this is legal tender. This is money. I will take it unless it's literally fraudulent or something. So at that point, you have maximum censorability. A lot of efficiency gains over the original gold coin, but maximum censorability. So this is the situation a lot of people find themselves in today, and this is kind of where cryptocurrency comes as the next evolution of this. So, as some of those things, just to go over the why. Why do you not want to use fiat currency and the banking system? Of course, the number one thing, for me at least, is censorship. As I just mentioned, you can have your financial transactions censored on a whim. Who has ever had a card decline at all? Okay. Who has ever had a card shut down? A lot of crypto people. I wonder why, if there's a little bit of a through line there, like where you get to that. Who has ever been denied access to a financial service? Not that you had it and then they shut it down, but they said, no, we won't open you account. Yeah? So, was that?
Crypto exchange.
Yeah, which, even though it's kind of ironic that the way a lot of us get into crypto is through these bank-like institutions that in a lot of ways are worse than banks in some ways. But anyway, so censorship, and people can shut down your, I think one of the more notable censorship examples of recent times is actually Kanye West, of all people. Ye has gotten himself into some problems through nothing but being an artist with spicy opinions and things, which all artists kind of are in the fringe of that, but he went too far. We're not talking about like trucker protests in Canada or something which could be seen as like an aggression against a state or something like that. This is just like an actor, or just an artist saying the wrong things, and they shut off his Apple Pay and shut down his bank accounts and things like that. So it could come for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. Now, of course, the other one, this is the big one. This is actually what got me into crypto. I'm much more about the censorship resistance part first now. But what got me into it is, I was an old school gold bug. I like to tell people that Peter Schiff got me into crypto, which he did, because he had a gold-backed debit card that I wanted to use. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I get to just not have any inflated currency. I get to just have sound money. And so when a central bank at will prints money, that money goes somewhere, not to you, and the total value that's in the currency gets diluted by creating more of it, but you don't get, if there's like a 10% inflation in a year, you don't get that money airdropped to you, as it were. So it's kind of a silent stealth tax. And so if you hold all your money in dollars, which is the best of the fiat currencies, I have to say, like there's like the euro's probably worse. Growing up, I grew up in the north of Mexico, and the peso was 7 to the dollar at the time. It's like 20-something, 27 or something today. So if you think the dollar's been bad, other currencies have fared much worse. So if you want to escape all that, you do need some kind of a sound money, like gold, silver, or a scarce cryptocurrency. And finally, and this is becoming a lot bigger today, is surveillance. There's a lot of data that is being collected about your everyday purchases. There's data sharing agreements between Google and MasterCard, et cetera. There's a lot. Basically, every financial move you make is being surveilled by someone. Now, if you want to really go down the rabbit hole, everything move you make is kind of being surveilled. But let's not go too far on that. This is just a single talk. There'll be others who can close that loop for you. But if you transact with a card, basically, especially one that's attached to your name, that stuff is all surveilled, all that data is there. And so then you can say, oh, you've been buying a lot of red meat. We're deciding that's bad for the environment. We're going to charge you more in taxes, or we're going to decline payments at a butcher shop or something like that. It could really creep up on you. So we went through the history of how money came and advanced, but also declined in other ways. And then some of the bad things that we can expect as a result of this new broken money, or new-ish broken money. So then we get to the solutions era. And if being honest and being in crypto, there are millions of different avenues of approaching this, and I don't think we're really going to know what ended up being the thing that works out until, decades from now at least. But in the meantime, I'm going to sort of do broad categorizations of feature sets from the perspective of avoiding those kinds of things I mentioned before. So first, let's go with Bitcoin. And by Bitcoin, I mean Bitcoin today. I don't mean, don't white paper me. Don't come after me with white paper like, oh, in PorcFest 2014, it used to work this way and stuff. All of which could be true, and is, in my opinion. But Bitcoin today allows you to have a digital gold-like thing where you can store your value in something that is digitally scarce and limited, and you can hold it yourself, and it can't be confiscated from other people if you store it yourself. You basically have that kind of, you're back to like the gold coin era, except in this case, it's a lot easier and cheaper and better to store, and it's a lot more feasible to transfer, especially large amounts, especially over distances. So we have a marked improvement. That being said, a lot of times you can't just go from Bitcoin in your own possession at all times to then just spending it for everyday needs. There's a lot of things that tend to come between that because there's a certain transaction limit. If you have too many on-chain transactions, the fees go up, et cetera. It's just not super feasible for everyday payments for everyone. So people who live entirely off of Bitcoin, using that as their savings, et cetera, usually use other things in order to do their basic payments, whether they swap something to a different cryptocurrency, whether they sell some to top up some money in their bank account. So if they lose their bank account, they still keep most of their money, but they just can't transact as easily. So again, still a big improvement. One big improvement that maybe a lot of people don't talk about that much is that if you want to have the digital modern version of paper bills for gold certificates, if you want to have digital Bitcoin certificates, it's a lot easier to do that with less trust. Whereas if you have a bank, big pile of gold, then you have to trust that these gold certificates, that there is the gold backing them. You have to trust at all times that someone didn't steal the gold and they're lying to you. That's why you have audits and things like that. Now, if you have like a wrapped Bitcoin of some kind, everyone can see exactly how much Bitcoin is right where they claim it is at all times. So it's a lot harder to do cheating in that kind of way. So the next thing, now this would be more original Bitcoin or other kinds of cryptocurrencies that do the basics of what Bitcoin does today, but also let you transmit a payment easily and with enough volume that everyone-ish in the world who uses it could just do that. So now you don't have to do things like sell for money in a bank. You don't, or fiat in a bank. I almost call that money for a second there. You don't have to sell. You don't have to move to something like the Lightning Network and open up a channel here, or you don't have to do any other stuff before spending it. You can take it from your savings, send it, cheap, it works. There you go. Now, this is kind of the 2009 to 2016 era Bitcoin kind of thing. In that there are some gaps in this, notably the privacy of these early cryptocurrencies is maybe not the best, right? And that's something that's being worked on a lot these days, which I'm very glad to see a renewed effort and vigor into adding privacy to cryptocurrencies. And also, usually if you send a payment, it takes a while to go through. You could trust that, right away it's probably not going to be reversed, but typically you either have to wait or trust, like for example, there's a company called Flexa, which lets you accept and use instant crypto payments, but they do that by collateralizing the payment and being able to basically cover it in case it doesn't go through or whatever. But basically there's extra stuff on top in order to facilitate a very smooth, effective payment experience. So the next thing, this I would say is like 2017, 18, 19 era sort of crypto, or what Dash was like at that time, which is the basic of everything, but you have instant settlement, so you can send a transaction and it's just done instantly. You don't have to deal with any other parties, you don't have to trust anyone else, you don't have to wait for things, it just works. And also adding in some privacy features to where you have something built into the protocol to make things better. But still, just like the basics of what it would need to have a scarce sound money that anyone can hold, anyone can transact with, that then is also feasible to transact with without a lot of extra stuff on top, but not perfect. The way the gaps still are, if I wanted to pay anyone here, I would need to present an ugly, long QR code or address or something, or I would need to connect you on Signal or Telegram or Matrix or whatever and say, hey, how's it going? Here's my address, here's what that payment was for, invoicing, all that stuff is just, you still have a layer of things on top, where if like Signal decides to shut you down, and then your email provider, whatever else, it becomes very difficult to then transact with people. Or if you lose your phone, you restore your money, and then you're like, what was that payment for? I don't remember, it's just some random message. So you still have some bits on top that are not, that kind of make it things infeasible to a certain extent for mass adoption. Of course, we're still at the point where nerds like me can still use this and frequently use it. But for mass adoption, you kind of need some extra. So the next step, and there's quite a few contenders in this case if you really dig beneath the surface, but I'll just say what I'm more familiar with. The evolution upgrade to Dash adds usernames and contact lists at the protocol level, which makes it so I could just friend you and then send you a payment, and it works. You don't have to trust anything else. You don't have to use external messengers, etc. Invoice information is written and encrypted to the blockchain, so if you lose your phone, you restore your phone, what the payment was for all comes back to you. You don't have to trust anything else. So this is kind of, it's still early days, I have to say, and people in crypto always yell at me when I say we're so early, because we're not that early, but we're getting finally into the point where there are starting to become a few different payment technologies that work on top of decentralized sound money that kind of look like something that, I don't know if your grandma could use it, but your mom could use it. We're finally starting to get there. So I kind of give you the big overview first, right? Where money came from, where it is today, the pitfalls of centralized money as most people use, even here most people kind of use probably a little too much, and then kind of the big vision of where the technology is today as far as doing something better. So, but how do you actually live on crypto? How do you start using this today? As I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, very rough going in the first few years, a lot of like personal deals with people. Hey, will you pay this bill for me if I pay you in crypto? All that kind of stuff. Now it's a lot easier. So if you want to start living on crypto, there's a few things. First of all, you need to find a way to pay bills. Bills meaning electricity bill, rent, mortgage, whatever else. All those kinds of things, you need some way of paying that. Of course, if you are blessed to live in some place like the free state of New Hampshire, you live in Manchester, you rent from Ledgeview Commercial, they will take your rent in crypto. That's great. A lot of places you can get whoever is billing you to set up an easy solution. CurePay is one of these that has been kind of recent that allows anyone to invoice their customer with crypto, and it automatically gets converted to fiat in their bank if they need that. So you need that, but more importantly, there are a few bill pay providers that kind of act as sort of a layer in between you and your biller. So let's just say you want to pay your Comcast Xfinity bill, right? You don't know the corporate offices that well. They're not going to start taking crypto, but you can go to a couple of companies, and I'm going to show a slide at the end, that will just pay on your behalf if you pay them in crypto. So instead of having to onboard hundreds and hundreds of different companies, now they're just one or two that you can use to just pay all your bills. And so the next thing is like major expenses. And this is just like those big things like grocery bill, household supplies, those kinds of things. Now, all you really need for this is just like a couple of big staples. And for example, there's a lot of services that let you buy from Amazon using crypto through a couple of workarounds. There's a ton of services that will sell you digital gift cards, which is great for Amazon, but also if you go to Walmart, you can do that as well. There's like so many of these other like grocery stores you can use like a kind of gift card go-between, or other sites, or like let's say you go to your local farmer's market and you know a lot of the people there, you can sign up the few farms you go to on a regular basis, get them to take crypto, and then there you go. And so the next thing, of course, is everyday payments. And this is the funnest thing to do with crypto, but it's also the hardest thing to reliably do. Because if you go down the street, go into town, wherever, and you want to pay for something, odds are statistically 100% of those places won't take crypto. And if to use a gift card workaround, probably only 10% or so, you know, especially the mom and pop shops. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky and people get a little bit icky on this, but for people who are trying to get all the way off of fiat, all the way on crypto, this is where there's a bunch of either, if you want to just go to your, if you want to do the easiest thing, you can get a prepaid crypto card. You still give your ID. It's kind of bank-like, but you can only put whatever crypto you don't mind losing onto that. And obviously, that's not private. Obviously, it's still semi-bank-like, but it allows you to keep almost all your money in crypto at all times and just put enough on to do those basic payments. Now, thankfully, there's a lot of services that will sell you digital, prepaid, anonymous cards. Like, you know, if you go into the grocery store, you buy like a vanilla Visa card or whatever, those ones, and there's no name on it, so when you go pay with it, there's no association to your identity when you pay. There's a lot of digital versions of this that you can go buy online with crypto, get it delivered instantly, and just plug it into whatever online shopping thing. Or if you got like a watch or a phone, there you go, just put it on that. And that's kind of like, again, uses fiat currency banking rails, but at least it's anonymous, and at least you get to keep most of your money in crypto and just use that to kind of cover those little gaps in between everything. So now you can take a picture of this, you can ask me for a slide or whatever, but this is a great kind of overview of like where to start, especially if you don't really know anything. So if you're in the US, Spritz is great for bill pay. You can just enter your bill, they give you a QR code, or you connect your wallet and you just pay. Boom, mortgage, electricity, everything else done. They do require identity verification on that, which sucks, but bills are in your name typically anyway, so it's not that different from, I mean, who else is going to be paying your electricity bill other than you, usually? Swapping is for the Europeans. I don't know. Anyone live in Europe here? There you go. So, swapping is for Europe. Swapping is for the euro. Euro using things. There's some other things. If you want Swiss francs or something, hit me up. There's something else I just didn't feel like putting on here. Zipto will do bill pay for US as well. Mexico, Philippines, India, Indonesia, like Guatemala, a whole bunch of places. Zipto is a little more expensive than Spritz. They have a little bit of a higher fee, but they don't require your ID to pay for bills. Their kind of reasoning is, oh, well, if I pay, if the bills are already in your name, you don't need to double identify the customer because who else is going to be paying their bills? Some people do care about that, though. And I do know there are some unbanked people who don't have ID, who have bills that they want to be able to pay, but they could not use something like Spritz. They might be able to use something like Zipto. So it's good, especially those of you who don't have a birth certificate and don't exist legally. If you're one of those, then Zipto, that's where that becomes important. For gift cards, BitRefill is a fantastic company that will sell gift cards for just almost anything, like Walmart, Amazon, you know, whatever, prepaid, anonymous, like payment cards, all kinds of things. Fantastic company. They've been at the forefront of crypto adoption for spending for many years, and work all over the world. That's like the big daddy of the crypto gift card scene. I like Piggy cards as well because they have a few other things that BitRefill doesn't have. They're a little bit smaller and a startup. Sometimes bigger discounts. BitRefill's not big for discounts these days, but you could get something like that on Piggy cards. And so then to travel, Travala works really well, especially because you can book your flights, you can book your stays. One thing, if you don't really have a bank account that gets tricky, is a lot of places will want a card for incidentals. And if you don't have a card for incidentals, that can kind of be tricky. From my understanding, Travala does create a temporary card with your name on it and uses it to pay for things. So if you need like a card, they're like, what's the name of the card on file for this? You actually have one even if you don't have a bank account. So I really like them. And then finally at the bottom, in my opinion, one of the best wallets for spending. Now I'm a huge fan of Edge as well, and if you want to visit the Edge people, it's one of the best wallets out there. For just super dedicated purpose spending, the Dash Pay wallet on Android and iOS has privacy features, usernames. It also has a spending feature inside that's very similar to something like BitRefill, but very much more efficient and with bigger discounts, like 5 to 10% or more. And that's kind of like, if you want everything on a flyer to just, this will tide you over, this will get you started, this is the way to go. So that's all I have for this one. Reminder that at noon over in that tent, I'm going to be doing a kind of more of a workshop version of this. So anyone, any questions at all, any problem solving, hey, I got this, how do I do that, etc. We'll do this conversation style over there. But in the meantime, I'm done here. Anyone have any questions, or do we have time for any questions? We got 30 minutes? Oh, a whole hour. Wow. This is an hour talk? Oh, damn. Well, I can keep going. Why don't we just start the workshop then now? Anyone have any question whatsoever? Hey.
Sure, I can't reach this. I have to stay on my
You can pull it
I can
down.
move it. Okay.
Yeah, make it take as long as possible so we soak up this time. This is called a crypto filibuster.
Works for me. Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
So I get all the benefits about going completely digital. Do you have a backup plan if the internet ever goes down or you lose your access so that you don't, you're not completely in the woods, screwed over?
Yeah, so are we talking about a personal temporary outage, or are we talking about like apocalypse type stuff? Because those are two, both the internet's gone, but those are two kind of slightly different
I
situations.
guess short-term and long-term, maybe?
Yeah, so I'll start with the easier question to answer is the long term. If the internet is gone and electricity is gone, we're probably going to be trading with like whiskey, meat, and lead. We're probably going to be doing, it's probably not going to be like, oh, let's take our paper money. It's probably not going to work as well if that's all completely gone. I do have some precious metals, but honestly, that's that's more of an apocalyptic scenario. But as far as the internet, that is a good question. Because crypto is online, there's a lot of limitations for that. But, so for example, I have prepaid, very small balance things. Some of these prepaid anonymous cards on my watch here, right? And this watch, even though it's an electronic device, it does not require the internet to make payments. So there's a certain number of payment tokens you have before you have to connect to the internet that I could just tap and use. And the same thing if there are anonymous crypto cards, but also not anonymous ones that are physical. So, for example, last few weeks I've been testing out like a Coinbase card. It works pretty well as long as you have some balance in your Coinbase account, which again is like a crypto bank. User beware, of course. But you can just, if there's no internet, you lose your phone, you lose everything, you can pull that out and use it. Looking forward though, at Consensus in Toronto, which is the big crypto conference, like 20,000 people or so were there in Toronto. There's a fantastic organization called the Acronym Foundation that did a really cool, they recreated like a 1990s strip mall with like a blockchain video, like Blockbuster video thing, a nail salon, all this kind of stuff, and had these little plastic NFC cards that had crypto on them, and you could tap and pay, and it would deduct crypto from your balance using that. So literally like a card, but for crypto, but also crypto in your own possession that someone can't steal from, that some company can't shut off for you. So that's super experimental. They did get over 1,000 people to pay with crypto there, which means PorcFest has a lot of like catching up to do to that maybe. Can we pass 1,000 crypto purchases during PorcFest? Who's gonna do their part? I'll do my part, I'll buy something today. In the future, I think that there will be a lot more solutions like this that'll make things easier. So yeah, again, we're still early. We're still semi-early to this stuff. Does that answer everything?
I think so. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks.
Before I ask my question, I'll apologize. The only purchase I've made today was with silver. For someone who sells their labor for US dollars, the only way I ever have crypto is if I buy it from someone. If I use these things for purchases, does that help change the world at all, or is that just nothing?
Yes, because first of all, I'm going to get a few layers deep in this. First of all, these are living technologies. They're sort of like businesses, but decentralized in that they need constant usage to not like die. And so like in the terms of something like Bitcoin, for example, or Dash or whatever, or Monero, you need transaction fees being paid to the people running the network, like miners, masternodes, things like that. So if you're putting cryptocurrency transactions on the blockchain, that makes those entities sustainable. So that's number one, that does help there. Number two is it does create a lot more volume and demand for these. So for example, if there's a lot of volume going through some of these services or paying, then whoever ends up having to sell or buy to be able to provision to you or whatever, they need extra liquidity, so they need to buy more, and then that drives the price up of all these assets. So from the economy, it kind of builds that up. But also, if you have enough people, let's just say everyone in here only signed up for Spritz and Bitrefill and use these two companies to pay for everything. At some point, if there's enough people that do that, there's enough demand for the local corner bakery to start taking crypto directly. And then now they can take it, whereas if you don't have people using crypto, no one's gonna take it. And then the corner bakery now has income in crypto if they so want it. So now they are earning it, and then they can pay their employees. Now their employees earn it, et cetera. So it does grow crypto to the point where at that point now it's like real money that real people use. And now, as far as like, for me personally, like if I earned fiat currency, which I don't, but if I earned fiat currency, I would still have to have it, and it could still be censored and inflated while I have it. So for me, if I earned a fiat salary, I would try to get rid of, personally, all of it immediately. Even if I keep earning it, I'd get rid of it, get rid of the bad money, get my good money, and then just go use that from there. And if enough people do that, enough people have, let's just say your spending balance or whatever, let's just say if everyone in the world bought like $3,000 of crypto at a time and had at least that to spend on things, there's only so much crypto valuation out there that the valuation has to grow to accommodate all these people storing at least that much spending money in crypto, and then the whole thing goes up, and then people are, wow, this is actually going up instead of fiat, which goes down, and then it all goes. I don't know if this is a question you didn't ask, but I'm going to answer it anyway, of what do you do if you earn fiat, and how do you get crypto from there? That's not just constantly going to an exchange and buying it. There's a couple of companies that will facilitate this for you. So Spritz will give you a bank account in your name that you can give to whatever, and if a direct deposit comes into that bank account, then they will automatically send you crypto for that. So unfortunately, at this moment, Spritz only does stablecoins for that, but then you can just one-click swap stablecoin to whatever fiat you want. There's another company that's much older called Bitwage, which does the same thing, but will pay Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a few stablecoins, I think. But so if you want to earn directly in Bitcoin, you can do that. Even if you have a fiat job, even if your boss doesn't know you even know what crypto is, you can earn everything in crypto from there. And of course, see, what I did in 2015 is I just decided I don't want to earn fiat anymore. I will only do work if people pay me in crypto. So I had to just find whoever would pay me in crypto and kind of make that work out. That still works today. That's easier than it was then, but it is a little hardcore. And if you have a established career, maybe that's not the first move you get. But again, I think that it's a gradient of all fiat to all crypto, and I want to push everyone towards the all crypto gradient as much distance as I can for each person, but also as a whole. Like if the entire world starts to spend crypto for like 20% of their things, only 20% of their money is in crypto, that's a massive win, even if they're still pretty fiat dependent. And eventually we get all the way there and we start using good money, freedom money, not bad stuff. Does that answer everything and then maybe a little bit more?
It does, thank you.
Perfect, thanks. Hi.
Hello. Last year here at PorcFest, I bought a book entitled Hijacking Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, always a classic.
Are you familiar with it?
Yes, it's on my shelf in the background for all my podcasts.
Pardon me?
I run a weekly podcast, and it's on my shelf in the background for all my shows. So yes, I'm very familiar.
All right. Is there anything in the future that you can see that will eliminate this problem of the overlarge blocks, which prohibits small uses of Bitcoin?
So are you asking about crypto as a whole or Bitcoin specifically?
Bitcoin in particular. Apparently it doesn't affect Bitcoin Cash.
Yes. So I honestly don't know the future, which no one here does, by the way. I think Bitcoin is going to be very conservative to change over the years. I think that kind of what we have now is like the best it's going to get. There might be some small upgrades that let people build other things on top of Bitcoin, kind of like if you've heard of the Lightning Network, things sort of like that, but better. That might be able to change. There's a few big, what I would call existential threats to Bitcoin on the future, that the way things are going right now, it's not going to survive. There's so many people and so much money involved with Bitcoin, though, that I think that someone will find a way to make it limp along, one of which is total network revenue. There's just not a lot of money coming in compared to how much the network is worth. Someone's got to pay the bills. And then the other thing is, of course, the whole quantum resistance thing. I don't know if you're quantum computer stuff. I'm so not an expert, so don't come at me for that. But it's a few years out. I don't know how many, 3, 10, 20, whatever. There will have to be major changes made to Bitcoin to make it so that someone with a quantum computer can't just steal everyone's money. That will require some changes. Who knows if the changes will have a knock-on effect and other things will happen. But basically, yeah, what you can do with Bitcoin today is probably what you will always be able to do with Bitcoin as long as Bitcoin's around. So a lot of people, like I was using all Bitcoin with no bank account in 2016. And then it stopped working for my purposes. And I just moved on. I started using mostly Dash, but I use like Bitcoin Cash, Monero, Zcash, some other ones. I kind of moved on and just used what works. Almost 10 years later, there's still the problems that I experienced are still the same or worse. So I'm not super optimistic that it's going to, as I put that in the evolution of coins kind of thing, I'm not seeing anything that's going to push it to the next stage. I just don't see it yet. But if something changes, I'll be sure to shout it from the rooftops.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect.
Hey. So when Ernie Hancock in like 2015, 2016, when he pointed out the fact that Bitcoin is pseudo-anonymous, so it's not anonymous. When he pointed that out, it made me realize that this isn't the end-all, be-all technology.
Now, what year was that, by the way? Just
I
curious.
want to say 15. It was either 14, 15,
Early.
or 16, something like
Nice.
that. It was really early on, and because Ernie was digging into it all. But it kind of points out the need for a better technology. What do you think needs to happen culturally for the crypto community and the world at large to drop Bitcoin as the primary mover just because it was first to market? It's not the best technology out there. What do you think needs to happen culturally for people to adopt better technologies, more privacy, quicker, faster, more effective?
Yeah, so to be perfectly honest, there's very few people that use crypto for like heavily. And so that's one of the reasons for a lot of like volatility in crypto. You see the price go way up and way down and stuff is because most people, like I would say, I don't know, it's maybe even generous to say 90% of crypto's usage right now is speculation. People buying it and hoping that the price changes at some point. As long as we have that, no one's exposed to the problems of crypto because you go on an exchange, like a Coinbase, for example, you hit the buy button, it tells you how much your portfolio is worth, you hit the sell button, and then you get fiat currency in your bank. That's what most people do. And so until people start using it, there won't be pressure to change. And so if people start using things like, for example, a custodial Lightning wallet for Bitcoin, they won't even feel the negative effects of that until they start getting account closures and censorship and all the kind of things that I pointed out in the beginning there. When that starts to happen, people will start to look for other things. And in the meantime, I think all we can do is, there's so many, from a technological standpoint, better technologies out there today, but they're so like not adopted that it's just so hard to, like, if you bought something in 2016, 17, 18, if you went all in on something that's not Bitcoin, you probably have a ton less money than if you went all in Bitcoin. There's just the way things turned out, right? Even better, objectively better technology. It takes a while. So if someone says, oh my gosh, I got censored on my Bitcoin exchange, or Wallet of Satoshi left my country because of this and that, and I can't use it anymore. And then you're like, hey, use Zcash. This is great. It's a private, it's super private, it works. And you're like, yeah, but like, what can I do with it? And only like 5,000 transactions at best are happening a day on the network. You can't, it's hard to make that move. So what I would just say is the crazy early adopters, the maybe you and me's of the world, have to start using the better tech early before it really makes a lot of sense. Go deal with some clunkiness, build that up so that you can actually switch from a bad technology. I'm not calling Bitcoin a bad technology here. I'm calling whatever people might use to use Bitcoin because of the limitations. You can switch from that to something better that has the same user experience. That's why, as I was talking about the evolution of things, when you go to like the original Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash stage, sure, that's better, but that's not better enough to where people can switch from a bank-like system that's widely adopted to something better that's not really that adopted. You need to start getting good privacy, instant transactions, usability like usernames and contact lists, intuitive things, and then people will be like, oh, this works as well as these centralized awful bank apps, but it doesn't censor me. This is awesome. And then people will start to do that. And it's a struggle. It's a battle that we will have now, because I feel like a lot of crypto people are a little complacent today, because after the crypto wars that sent a lot of my friends to prison over the last few years, the election was very good to the crypto community in that a lot of lawsuits ended overnight. Ross Ulbricht is free. There's so many, yeah, you can give an applause break to that. There's so many things that we got, but then, they passed the Genius Stablecoin Act, was it yesterday, that says what can and can't be a stablecoin. And then even though stablecoins are not what we're after, a lot of people will be using stablecoins before other cryptos for payments, and then you start regulating who can and can't issue. You start reinventing the banking system in a new, evil way. So now is the time to be hardcore about privacy, self-custody, sovereignty, and start using crypto. Any other questions? Hi.
Hi. I'm going to play the Peter Schiff advocate on this. The first thing I'd like to say is something can't be stable until everyone accepts it, and no one will accept it until it's stable. So you're in the middle. And to me, this looks like counterparty risk, which is the exact, like, if you have to layer on top of crypto, I mean, I have, like, I'm sticking with my silver because I know I can hand it to somebody and there's no counterparty risk.
Nice.
So I don't understand. It seems like a solution in need of a problem. And I've been reading and studying this for, since Safety
Yeah.
Amos. I mean, so can you tell me, what reason would I have to sell my silver and buy BTC, I mean,
Well, you make a lot of good points, and that's a lot of the stuff I was criticizing or sort of saying we need to move past. But let me ask you something. Obviously, this is like private information. You can just say, I don't want to tell you. But like, how much of your wealth is in how much of your total money, including spending money, is in precious metals as opposed to the dollar?
my substantial life savings. I'm 65 now.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is I can see it for young people that they have a lower time preference.
Yeah.
And so they can, invest, reasonable, whatever that means, 10%, 15% of their savings into
Yeah.
Bitcoin to.
So let's say 90%. Now, go over in your head how many things you've bought in the last week. Mm-hmm. How many of those did you buy with silver or gold?
No, I don't, but I'm considering cashing in some 10-ounce bars
Yeah.
To have my roof redone, or I'm going to pay a roofer in 10-ounce bars, and they'll probably give me a discount considering that silver looks like it's going to rocket right now.
Of course.
So, that's
Yeah. So wherever you can, and here's the thing, I'm what they call a freedom maximalist. I want people to be free and sovereign. I have my opinions on works better or doesn't for that, but if you're paying for things direct, you're handing over silver or gold
Yeah.
to someone, I'm never going to tell you stop doing that.
Right,
That's
sure.
awesome. Do any of that you can.
Right.
Everything else, you have that counterparty risk now. The papers, they can inflate that. The bank can just not give it to you. Or you go to a dealer, they can say, oh, sorry, we have strict ID laws now if you sell over a certain amount of gold or silver. Now you're in that zone. So that's what I'm targeting, right? And the thing is, I'm a big, gold and silver and precious metals, they're a natural occurring resource, right? They're a natural rock, whatever you want to call them, but their use by humans is a technology. Coins are a technology people invented to help store and transmit value. And so there's new technology that does a lot of the same kind of thing, does some things better, a lot better, but also, as I mentioned with crypto being living networks that they need to be fed in order to live, gold just still exists if no one mines gold for a decade, your gold still works. If no one mines Bitcoin for a decade, that goes to nothing. So there's trade-offs here and there, but as I mentioned, in 2011, 2012, I was trying to live all on gold and silver. I couldn't figure it out. I've spent precious metals about 10 times in my life. One of them was, I would say 7 out of those 10 were at ParkFest over the years. But I've spent crypto that many times this week. So that's for me, this has been what has gotten me off of fiat, was gotten rid of my fiat. I cared about it from a gold and silver perspective first, and then I found out that there's other tools to make that happen. There are also, some, and this is not an area of expertise of mine, so you'll have to ask someone I think Aaron Day knows a lot more about this, but of gold and silver denominated crypto, crypto that is instead of a bank issuing a gold or silver certificate, it would be on a blockchain somewhere and maybe as a aggregate of certificates of different banks or custodians or whatever, so you don't have to trust one to take your money. And there's some things that could happen with that. I can't recommend any because I don't know enough, but that could be interesting. You could use physical gold and silver wherever you have it, and then you could use digital gold and silver wherever you can't use the physical stuff, and just don't use fiat currency in banks. Absolutely. Yeah. Dr. K, you got a question?
Yeah, maybe I'll just make a quick comment on crypto versus precious metals. I think we always want to be careful about the crypto versus precious metal people because fundamentally everyone's looking for sound money.
Absolutely.
So I got to hang out with Peter Schiff and talk to him for a while, And
Was that at the Bitcoin conference? I did visit.
we actually flew together to the Bitcoin
Nice.
conference. So
I did visit
yeah.
the Quai table there looking for Peter Schiff because I wanted to tell him that he got me into crypto. Also, I used to work for him back in the day, do some writing for him. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, like fundamentally, I think any people that are advocates for sound money are coming from the same place. So we may have different opinions on how to broadly achieve that, but like we shouldn't fundamentally fight. Is like I guess a statement. But specific to your presentation, I'm wondering with Dash Evolution, Dash being a privacy coin, adding in both receipts as well as naming features onto the blockchain seems kind of antithetical to the privacy aspects of Dash, which are also, I think, a fundamental requirement to be money. So I'm just wondering how you guys are kind of dealing to balance that tension.
And there's a lot of different ways of approaching this that are different as well that you can do it. So it's most username, I would say old school username systems in crypto, just map a username to a static address or to many. So if you put in this address, it'll kick out an address and then everyone can see how much money you have. Terrible, kind of ENS, unstoppable domains, those kinds of things, terrible for privacy. So what Dash does is first of all, you have a friending process where you have to friend someone. And once you friend, you exchange a very specific extended public key in encrypted format with each other. So then every time I would send you a payment, it generates a new address on the back end and I pay you, but it's not otherwise exposed to the rest of the world.
Is this like a payment code type system?
Similar.
Like BIP47?
Yeah, it's a similar thing. It's its own thing. There's a custom derivation path for each user that you friend, so you don't have like the entire wallet's extended public key. It's just your payments between each other.
No, so 47 does do individual channels.
Yes.
It sounds similar to 47.
Yeah, so it's similar to like, a stealth address or something like that.
Right, but if I have that, I would still be able to recover my funds and in any given channel, as long as you're publishing the channel to the blockchain somewhere. But I wouldn't necessarily know who that is.
Yeah.
Right, so I would then have to tag metadata about that person also in that channel in some encrypted fashion.
So you know all the addresses and all the exchanges you've had with that person. And if you lose your wallet and you recover it, you can see all those things. Oh, everything in this derivation path, that must be that one guy. But that's you. I share my information with you, and you have all the information about any payments we might have exchanged.
Right.
But otherwise, it's not public. And there's, of course, other privacy features. There's a built-in CoinJoin thing. There's also some pretty big overhaul we're working on over the next few years. But longer-term thinking on this, I like zero-knowledge privacy, like similar to like a Zcash type thing, where even if you resolve to like an address, like a unified address or whatever, no one else observing that can see anything other than, their own payments with you. So I think that has been a big hang-up over the years of trying to get these kinds of username types, easy-to-use systems kind of working because they inherently gave a big privacy compromise. But I think that's not going to be the problem over the next few years.
Oh, cool.
Cool. Olga, are we good?
Yes, we're good. Everyone
All right.
give a round of
Thanks, everyone.